Hello and welcome back to the One Take Show podcast. In this episode, we are in conversation with two of the most amazing guests for this episode. Firstly, we have Ms. Jyotsna Chaturvedi, Principal Associate at Maheshwari Co. And joining us all the way from Germany is Mr. Markus Hoffmann-von Wolffersdorff. Sir is the partner at KNPP Rechts und Patentanwälte. And in this episode, all of us in fact, talk about a very interesting concept, that is the relationship between India and Germany, especially when it comes to the technological alliances between the various investments that are flowing either from Germany to India or across, and how these two major law firms are actually collaborating and bringing about the change, and what it means for the Indian marketplace, what are the various legislative, regulatory aspects that need to be taken into consideration. So yeah, a very fulfilling, very enriching episode. If you like this episode, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you have any suggestions or feedbacks, write them down in the comment section. I would love to read them. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's start the podcast.
You want something, go get it. Period.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the One Take Show. I'm really excited. I think this is the first time for me, and I think it is truly a golden opportunity for anyone who's watching this episode right now or would tune into this episode to learn so much about Indo-German trade relations. And this theme in itself is so interesting. And I'm truly grateful that both of you could take time off your very busy schedules and join me for this conversation. So thank you so much for taking time out and joining me for this conversation.
Thank you, Pastor. And thank you for the opportunity. We also feel this opportunity is great to give by yourself. And then we are also lucky to have been speaking on this platform. Thank you.
So namaste from my side, and I thank you for having the opportunity to be part of this podcast. And yes, I feel honored to have the possibility with my dear partner Jyotsna to share some thoughts with you.
Absolutely, sir. I've had the golden opportunity of actually speaking with ma'am previously, and we've had a very fruitful discussion. I think that has benefited a lot of law students previously as well. And I think a part of this conversation, where I'm going to read it out word by word so that I don't make any mistake, it's the Indo-German Enhanced Trade Partnership driving India-Germany trade. And I think this in itself encapsulates so much that we are going to talk about. So before we even get into the conversation, conceptually, we talk about this new relationship that is being built. I would start with Jyotsna ma'am. As a prelude to the entire conversation, how would you define this relationship that we are talking about right now?
So, as you're aware that Maheshwari Company is a law firm. We are a full-service law firm, and we have been practicing in different practice areas of corporate litigation and intellectual property. And we have been doing a number of foreign collaborations, and we have been actually advising on a number of foreign clients as well. Germany, as we all know, in the world economy as well, in the Indian economy as well, they have been very great partners. And if we talk about Germany as a country, so it is very much related to, if we talk about the US and other things, it is the greatest partner from the EU side of it. So we have. And Markus, we have been dealing with Markus. We met him, and we have been dealing with Markus since last decade's time, more than a decade's time. And it has been more of a collaboration, not only on the side of the commercial side of it, when we are talking about collaborating the companies, but it is a different front as well. So we understand each other's culture, we are each other's working relationship, and it is great to have fun arrangements, to work with together. Yes. Markus, your take?
Yes, and beyond the professional side of such a corporation, of course, we believe in personal relationships, and I would not consider Jyotsna and Vipul just as colleagues. So they are becoming friends. And when you have such an intensive work relation, so you know each other quite well. And so I'm glad and I feel privileged to call Jyotsna also a friend. Same as her partner Vipul. And I think in the Indo-German context, and that might be a general concept, it's always a people business, and people have to interact, and people have to understand each other and have to overcome the differences which might be triggered by religion, race, culture, etc. And I think with us, it's a good example. Even when there are a lot of things which differs from our daily life, we can bridge this, and we can create interdisciplinary multinational team to serve our clients. And beside that, I have to admit I'm a fan of India, and I'm since 2003 in the Indo-German business. And my first footsteps was with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce in Mumbai in 2003. And right from the first week on in Colaba Causeway, I decided that's it. That's the country I like. And I like the culture, I like the history. I'm fascinated about the Indian history. And yeah, so it was just logical for me I want to become part of this Indo-German business scenes on a legal side. And I'm really lucky that since more than a decade, I can call Maheshwari, the law firm, as our partners.
Wonderful. And I think as a law student, this is a very novel sort of a situation for me to assess, because I have not personally come across many of such situations. So when we talk about a technological partnership of this sort, that is sort of paving way for future discussion and deliberations, sort of in a way revolutionizing how we look at the partnerships, and now is bringing in a party, as ma'am has previously suggested, that Germany has, we've had some brilliant relationships with Germany in the past as well. So before we talk about the specifics of it, how about a preliminary understanding or a conceptual understanding of what exactly is this technological partnership that we're talking about? Markus, maybe we can start with you.
Okay, so first of all, what I will say is just my subjective point of view. So we are not engineers. So we are not so deep into all these tech topics like engineers. We see this more from a point of view as advocates who were involved in transaction deals, etc., etc. And so we can only share our very subjective views based on our work experience in the last 16 to 70 years, just as a preliminary note. My primary impression is that a lot of Indian companies in the last 10 to 15 years were driven by the need to seek and to obtain state-of-the-art technology, what they can utilize on their own local market. And since this state-of-the-art technology is not available at that extent in India as it is in Germany, that the key motivation for foreign collaborations with foreign partners, such as German partners, or for placing an investment in Germany, was to obtain access to technology, what can be jointly developed with a German partner, but what will be utilized in the local market in India. And there are different forms how such a technology collaboration can be achieved. Quite often we observed also during our joint projects that setting up joint ventures, for instance, in India between an Indian entity and a German entity always goes along with the transfer of technology and know-how as one aspect of this joint venture, that the foreign partner, the foreign entity, is transferring its know-how, what is protected with IP, like patents, designs, etc., to the Indian new joint venture, and that through this transfer, the Indian partner also gains access to this technology and can somehow use this beside the joint venture business as well, as long as there are certain agreements in place who enable the Indian partner to utilize this technology partner. So JVs as such, to summarize, is a good tool, or can be a good tool, to transfer technology, foreign technology, to the Indian market and to utilize it in the Indian market. But we also observed in the past that Indian companies invested strategically in the German market by setting up an R&D center there together with German private research institutes or cluster and network companies who who have a high expertise in R&D, and they combine the resources of all their members. So we talk about clusters or network companies, which offer also joint R&D, and that in the past, a lot of Indian investors were aware about these possibilities to build up a foreign entity just for R&D purpose. Since they are aware it is not so easy to gain this technology in a short time in India. So that we also observed in the past.
Right. And absolutely, I think it was 2016-17 when the diplomatic relationship sort of started targeting this area of trade relations, where technological partnership, especially when it comes to investment, also started making sense. Ma'am, do you also have similar preliminary impressions of this technological relationship like so? You can start, yes.
Yeah. So as I mentioned that before, that Germany is a very great partner for India in the field of technology. So when we talk about the technology, German partners are like indispensable. When we talk about that, we have number of technology joint ventures which happened between India and Germany, and in the last 7-8 years, which we have seen. And me and along with Markus, we have been doing number of technology deals together, number of joint ventures together. And therein we have seen that, it's not only in front of any particular area or any particular sector. So you can talk it out like it is automotive, it is like food equipment, it is like on the IT side of it as well. Recently, it has been initiating on the AI side. Like if you look at the different ventures which the bilateral treaties have been talking about, it is more on the high-tech parks, the high-speed railways. So there are a number of technology things which are already been happening. So then, if we talk about the companies from Germany, out of the companies which are listed on DAX, so out of 30 companies, I think more than 26 have already been in India, and they have a joint venture in India. We have a number of MSMEs also which are there from, but the number and the proportionate percentage is less. But again, there is a lot number of JVs which are interested in. Again, India is also open for those high-tech kind of market. So they are open for high-tech products and those technologies. So therefore, both of them have a win-win situation for both the countries have a win-win situation for both of them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, let me ask you something on this front. As Markus has already previously sort of hinted on it, what makes India such an interesting and attractive location for investment, especially from countries like Germany? And what is it, the characteristic feature that we offer as a nation that sort of attracts such investments?
So the first and foremost thing is the market, as I mentioned. India has a very good and robust domestic market as well, wherein we have this thing for our domestic consumption. So if you initiate on anything, we talk about the defense, the country is actually looking forward for a lot number of defense partnerships and collaborations. We talk about agriculture now because the labor has been moving from those hardcore labor-intensive industries to they want to go for the white-collar jobs and other things. So there are a number of automation which also is required. So in that case, Germany is the right thing where they can actually focus on. So there are many opportunities as such which we talk it on. And the third most thing is like the cultural aspect of both of them together. They have done so many joint ventures together, they gel well, I think. But Markus can add more to it because they know why German companies are interested in India. So he can talk more in detail about it.
I think I had a very interesting discussion recently where we were talking about this investment strategies of the countries. And one interesting aspect that came out was obviously the Indian model BIT, and it showed how the European culture of investment is sort of replicated and is encouraged even by the developing nations, and what sort of a groundwork it lays for investment coming in from countries which are in Europe to countries that are like India. Now, but this must invite some sort of legal compliance questions and issues with respect to legal compliance of the technological trade. And I think I would request comments from both of you on this. Maybe we can start with ma'am, because this is a very important question. If there is to be a technological partnership, And as Markus sir has pointed out, that there are dedications, there are certain commitments that India has already made, and they require certain compliances. What is that discussion like, and what are those compliances, and what is it that these investments need to be aware of in that run?
Eased down many of these laws with respect to foreign direct investment. So, lot number of sectors have been opened up, and those sectors which had like not 100% shareholding allowed or not 100% control allowed for the foreign companies, they have been now opened up for 100% shareholding. So, this is one thing. Again, the government has been working intensively on being worked out on the ground level. But yet, if we talk about the companies to incorporate, so they incorporate, you can incorporate a company in less than 5 days. It's like you require only 4 days time to incorporate the same, and then you don't require any further documentation and other things. All the things in scan mode is doable, so you don't require any physical documents. So that is the ease of doing business which has been introduced by the government. Again, on the FDI side, if we talk about only the sensitive sectors which has been there, they have been on the front wherein not 100% is allowed. On the compliance side, the government is also trying to consolidate all the licenses. So it is not, it's you cannot say that it is all open up now and you don't face any problems. But yes, the things have been eased down a lot. So
Yes.
just to easing down it, the government has been making rules. The labor laws are being consolidated and other things. So compliances, you have to be very particular about that. When you enter India, as Markus must be knowing it, when you enter India, your partner should have a lawyer and an accountancy partner. So that before you enter India, you have these two things in place. I have lot number of litigation matters as well, wherein people have actually made it a mess because of this, because they thought that this is a cost. So you should always consider it as not as a cost. You should consider it as an investment so that to avoid any problems in the future. So that is on the compliance side of it. You have to be very sure that the things get in the right manner.
I think this is where having a wonderful expert as a partner in the country plays out, and I think this is why this partnership would absolutely succeed in every possible level. But so, like from your
let me add please something to what Jyotsna said, because I like to have some new perspectives as well. What we also always have to consider when we talk about technology collaborations and transfer of technology and know-how, when we talk about joint ventures, takeovers, etc., is the topic of intellectual properties. And please understand that German investors, German companies, they always are driven by a certain sublime fear that their IP could be somehow violated by partners, could be stolen or whatever. And of course, that is a very critical issue, because IP is the result of decades of engineering and R&D, and this is extremely costly, as we all know. And European or German companies invested a lot of money, a lot of efforts in their R&D to reach this quality and this technology, what is protected by patents, design protection, etc., etc., etc. And what is remarkable, that in the last, I would say, 15 years, India made a lot of very important steps to set out legislative acts for the protection of IP, since India is also a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. And therefore, India made its commitment as a member of this organization to ensure with their national legislative that certain international standards are also available in India. So that means we have a Patent Act, we have a Copyrights Act, etc., etc. So we have now this legal acts in place, which are quite similar from their principles compared to these legal acts like Copyright Act, Patent Right Act in Germany. So the principles are quite similar meanwhile. And I think this is a very good development that these laws are in place already. And that gives a legal security for foreign investors. In case there is a violation of IP by an Indian party, what can always be in the business world, there is an effective mechanism in place how you can claim for your rights, for your compensations, etc., etc., etc. So that is a very remarkable and a very good development, what we witnessed in the last 15 years. A challenge is the duration of legal proceedings at Indian courts. So that needs improvement. So, you know, Germans are friends of efficiency. I give you an example. When I start a litigation here at my high court in my city where we live in Leipzig or in any other high court, there are some regional differences, but in the average, you can say within 1 year, I obtain a verdict in the first instance. So it does not take more than a year. And that is efficiency in jurisprudence. If it takes 5, 6 years or more to obtain a judgment, then it becomes a little bit difficult. And we have the saying, justice delayed is justice denied. And I think the Indian juridical system needs some improvement to become more efficient. I think it's the same topic like in Germany. The number of judges are not sufficient. The process needs to be fully digitalized and it needs a better financing. We have the same discussions here in Germany that the juridical system, the justice is not properly financed, and that leads to a lot of problems in terms of insufficient number of judges. The workload for the single judges is too high. So, and that delays also a little bit of proceedings. And that is, I think, for the future, one of these challenges for the Indian government to improve the duration of the proceedings. I think the outcome, the quality of the litigations in India, that already fulfills international standards. So this is not the topic. It's just the efficiency and the duration of the proceeding. What can be considered as a hurdle.
Right. Perfect. So I think that's one of the concerns that we as a country also have been pondering over. And I think this is a perpetually existing concern for most of the developing countries. The overloading of the judiciary happens. And sure, like I'm sure ma'am knows much more about this than I do, obviously. But the processes have sort of improved in a way or the other. But sure, this is a concern. Ma'am, do you have a comment on that?
More commercial courts, which has a very limited period of time wherein you have to actually redress and you have to come out without any further delays. The parties cannot delay the process further. So number of matters has been taken up on that side. Again, we have the number of legislations which are more procedural, like Insolvency Act, which is more procedural and which is time bound. Similarly, the commercial courts has also time bound process, wherein all the things has to be defined in a time-bound manner. Arbitration Act also, similarly in India, if you go for Indian Arbitration Act, the process has been made time-bound. So the things have been taken on the right side of it. Yes, I agree with Markus, a lot has to be done yet. On the right side, we are working on the right side, but because of the dearth of the number of judges which we have, the number of pendencies are huge. That is my take, yes.
Right, absolutely, ma'am. And in fact, as far as arbitration is concerned, my previous discussion was about how Section 29A, which is a very specific amendment that was made to make sure that the arbitrations in India are time-bound. and especially the domestic arbitrations, if not the international arbitrations, which is very interesting. I think this would be an interesting scene to observe as to how these foreign investments, especially coming from countries like Germany, at least propagate this sort of a change or a consciousness that needs to be created amongst the legislators at least. With that, I think one major question that comes to my mind is that when we talk about these technological partnerships, at least in future, what are the major sectors that operate in India that require or that lay a very interesting groundwork for such technological partnerships? Maybe we can start with Sir, and then we can go to Ma'am.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question, and I think personally I see two large sectors. Number one is the, let's call it old industry, the old economy, where we talk about foremost automotive and machinery and tool manufacturing. There is still a very high demand for cutting edge technology. But I would consider this as the more old economy. The second sector is what I would consider as new economy or new developments. And this is foremost driven by the energy transition. India is committed to change its entire energy sourcing to avoid carbon-based energy sources such as coal, and that should be substituted by renewables and to a certain extent also nuclears. So we will have a debate. We already have it in Germany, we have it in the US, and we will have it also in India about the percentage of nuclear energy sources. But it is very clear that this transition of the energy will be leading to an more or less change of the entire industrial production. And so we talk not only Industry 4.0, we talk also about the influence of automatization. We talk about the influence of digitalization and artificial intelligence in the industrial process. And all this together is a huge chance. It's also a huge challenge for each society to cope with this change of the industrial production. And that goes along with a lot of opportunities in the Indo-German sector for technology collaborations. I think personally that the energy topic with foremost solar, grid and network technology, but also hydrogen as an alternative energy source for steel production, for instance, for urban mobility, etc. That is a major sector where we will face a lot of very interesting developments. On the other hand, I see green and environmental technologies as a very promising sectors. So we talk about the Clean River Ganga project, for instance. If you see the water quality of River Ganges and others, you know, it's quite polluted. We made extremely good experiences in East Germany, where we had a similar problem with high industrial pollution, polluted rivers, groundwater, etc. All these problems have to be solved by technology. And I think India could learn its lessons from what we have done. We have made the same mistakes in the past. And we have cleaned our rivers and our lakes, and now it has drinking water quality. And, you know, this is just one little example how technology can solve these very fundamental problems in society. So green and environmental tech is one very promising sector, same as infrastructure development and logistics. So India is facing huge challenges in its national logistics, moving goods from A to B. This is still an issue. That is a very promising sector. And I think also rural area development, bringing electricity and bringing the modern lifestyle also to the villages. So energy independence, autonomous energy sources with renewables. That means I see a future where every village has its own windmill and solar plant, and that the villages become independent, that we don't have this huge cable transitions or cable networks throughout the country. No, that we think about smart solutions, how villages in India, and the majority of the people in India are villagers and farmers. How can their life quality be improved by free access 24/7 for technology, electricity? So I think this is also a very, very promising sector. And the last sector where I think there are a lot of potentials is everything what is described as smart city development. So smart buildings. So the entire climate topic. So in terms of housing, ACs, do you have an extremely consumption of energy because of all the ACs, what you use to deal with the climate and the heat? How to build new buildings more energy sufficient, efficient, etc., etc. So that, I think, that are the mega trends for the future. To summarize, in the old economy, I think it will be foremost automotive and machinery and tool manufacturing that will remain. But the new challenges, the new sectors is everything along with renewable energies, energy transition, infrastructure development, logistics, green and environmental technologies, and all technologies which will come in effect for the development of the rural areas. So that is my very personal prediction.
While adding on to what Marcus said, I have two other sectors, as he rightly mentioned, that other than the primitive areas and sectors like automotive, infrastructure, heavy engineering, there can be one important sector is also waste management. So India is actually coupling with waste management issues as well, because a lot of waste has been created, and then how to use that waste efficiently for creating energy sources. That is one government's largest initiative which they are looking at. And there are a number of state governments level and central governments level also. Different companies, they are actually looking for tenders, different tenders, wherein they can have such kind of collaborations, wherein technologies can be bought in on that side, where those can be used, the waste can be used to build roads and bridges, or maybe energy sources, something like that. The other sector which I feel is again the AI, which is the current this thing, wherein AI not specifically is a IT tool, but also in different sectors. So when you talk about India can collaborate well on with Germany on the IT, AI in the health sector, AI in the agricultural sector, AI in different sectors as such, so that can be cumulatively putting it on. On the other side, one is like while we are talking about all inbound India, while we talk about outbound also. So in the IT and space sector, there are a number of companies from India also, they can collaborate with German companies, wherein because India has an excel in IT and space sector, where they can help German companies in making those space cloud migration and other things where India has been excelling on. So there are a lot of opportunities on the bilateral side of it, which both can work on, like what Marcus has mentioned, or like what I mentioned about it. And then a lot of things, there are government initiatives also from both sides, because the German government, the bilateral side of it, if you see, the German government and the Indian government has been working together and holding together to make it happen more often. I know that due to the elections to come in Germany, there will be different this thing and different leadership. If it comes, then India has to start afresh with that. But currently, the relationship is very collateral. And the things, the offerings which they are making, the treaties and the agreements which they are signing, that is, different take, and there are a lot of opportunities which have been created because of that.
Yeah. It's fully correct what Jyotsna added, and I like to add one additional point. It's not an industrial sector, but I think this is a very important topic. It's the question of education, foremost vocational training and education. So we are facing in Germany a shortcut on qualified workforces. And India is facing to a certain extent a similar problem. And you, as an industrial company who wants to compete with global players, it's very important to produce products which can compete with international competitors, and in a very efficient and cost-efficient way. That is always the challenge for each entrepreneur. And the backbone for each production is not only the good engineering and the good software what goes along with it, it's the workforce. These are the humans which we need. Even if artificial intelligence and robots and automatization and all that will have a major impact for the future for industry, but you still need humans who handle the robots, who maintain the robots, who develop the software, etc., etc. And certain mechanical work like welding, etc., that will be not substituted so easily by robots. And that requires good qualified workforce. And such workers have to undergo a permanent training to develop themselves. So vocational training and skill development. I don't talk about school level. I talk about the adults who have to permanently develop and to train. That is another sector where I think there are a lot of good initiatives, bilateral initiatives, which have been made between the Indian government and the German government, and various institutions such as Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. But that is a sector where I still believe there is a lot of potential to do some more, because there is also a lack of skills for a lot of Indian blue-collar workers. And I think this is a very promising sector as well.
Wonderful. I think this is very interesting when we talk about such skill allotment or the vocational training. It becomes a topic that is often overlooked when we talk about technological partnerships, because there, as you mentioned, there needs to be a workforce, and I'm sure there are other ancillary challenges as well, which I believe come with this technological partnership. And what are those major challenges? I think I'll ask this question first to ma'am, because from an Indian perspective, there is an immediate recognition or the acknowledgement of the fact that, okay, these are the obvious challenges that we're going to face. But apart from that, are there any such challenges which would be the first ones that this partnership would deal with head on?
Like the laws and other things, like enforcements of the laws. Like we have a good law in place, but the implementation of the same, that is something which has to be again enforced. That is one thing. Again, the licensing, which currently is there, because if you go for a manufacturing level, the number of licenses which we need to take in India, it's humongous. And it's not on one window. So I remember that right now we are working upon a company from Canada who is actually doing some manufacturing activity in India. And there are a number of licenses which they have to take it on. So, and there are different windows, different state level, central level. So that has to be created. That is one more challenge which we see. Again, on the IP side of it, as Marcus touched upon, that we need to see that that has to be instant. If there is any kind of infringement, then those infringements are addressed properly. So that is the thing, but these things are already on the government's mindset that this has to be worked upon, and that has been working upon that how this can be more expedited to give a more good outlook to the different foreign investors.
Yeah, perfect. So for sure, I can also agree with Jyotsna. Not only in India, also in Germany, we are facing some legislative and bureaucratic hurdles for Indo-German trade. In Germany, it's less legislative hurdles. There are more of bureaucratic nature. But I witnessed the same, too much bureaucracy and too complex processes for obtaining licenses and approval. That is a major challenge. So the processes have to be very lean, very efficient, not so time consuming, because investors and entrepreneurs want to focus on their core products and their core business and less about administration and legal hurdles. Okay, that's our business, so we don't want to complain about that they are existing, but that is definitely a challenge what a lot of companies in India and Germany are facing. That goes also a little bit along with protectionism. India achieved a lot and opened its doors. And this is a good thing. But on the other hand, we also witness from time to time new releases from the government regarding custom tariffs, which make the import of products from Europe more expensive. For instance, there is an announcement that the custom tariffs for the import of solar panels, foreign solar panels and technology should be increased up to 40%. So that means that for each foreign company who likes to, let's say a German company, import its products on the market or to build up a production, in the moment it becomes more and more expensive. And then of course the entrepreneurs will start calculating, okay, how can we solve this problem? So that means protectionism, as much as I can understand it from one hand from the political side, but for international trade and business, we need very liberal policies and market policies, because this is what the business needs as a backbone of our society. And more liberalism is something what we desire, and we hope that the Indian government, the central government, will continue with its good process and good achievements in the last 15 years to liberal the market more and more. And there are two other aspects which I like to add as a challenge. Number one is, and this is a very crucial part, what is always underestimated as well on the Indian and German side, is finding a suitable partner. As I mentioned already, business is related on people. And if you do not find a reliable partner, a suitable partner, what matches with your expectations, the size of your business, the nature of your business, etc., then it will be a little bit difficult, because we Germans, we have difficulties to understand Indian society in the beginning. It needs a while to adopt and to get familiar with the system. Vice versa, it's the same. If an Indian investor sends his stuff to Germany to build up a production or a distribution company for the European Union, what we experience is that many Indian staff who live here for a while, they feel somehow lost. They feel lost in a completely different cultural environment where they don't speak the language. This is a language barrier, is a huge challenge, and where the mindset, how to deal with things, is also a bit different. And all this is an intercultural topic. This is a challenge, and having a good partner on your side, that means it can be a JV partner or partner consultants who guide you through this process, and they have a more holistic understanding and holistic approach what is required for a successful business. I think this is very essential. And look, legal topics, this is more or less a technical question, what can be solved by advocates like us. But solving some legal question does not make your investment successful. It needs much more than this. And this is more in holistic understanding what you need. And so, for instance, we help also our clients, Indian clients who want to set up an office here or distribution company, to find suitable housings, to get a place in the international school for their kids or a kindergarten, etc., to make it as easy as possible to integrate into society and to feel a little bit home, and to have somebody who can guide you through all these difficulties and challenges what you will face in a totally different society, what differs a lot from what you know from home. And I think this is essential, to have good partners on your side who help you and support you. Otherwise, quite easily you feel lost a little bit, and this is also a challenge.
I would like to add two points to it. are also missing is we don't have with Germany the bilateral treaty. The bilateral treaty which should happen between the countries that could not have been signed between India and Germany because of EU has to take decide on that. One is this, which is very important, so as to have more free trade, more trade benefits for both the countries. And the second is like in India from Japan, because Japan is again the similar kind of partner as Germany to India. Japan has an overseas official development, what do you call assistance, which is called ODA. But right now we had a discussion, the Indian government also had a discussion with the German government about this, but right now we don't have any ODA from Germany to India, which can help the middle and which what you call midterm-sized companies to travel from Germany to India and give more expertise and have more venues tried in India. So these two aspects can also be considered while actually things can go further. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think this has been a brilliant conversation so far. I think there's so much that I personally have taken away from this conversation, learning more about the trade relations and how this all works out. I think I would just request both of you to please, in order to sort of summarize this entire episode, give out your closing remarks to our viewers and listeners. And maybe we can start with Markus and then we can move to Jyotsna.
I personally believe in Indo-German business relations also in the long run in the future. Otherwise, I would not have invested so much to build up a fruitful partnership with Maheshwari. And so I think there are extremely good potentials for the Indo-German business and technical collaborations in the next 10 to 20 years. So I'm very optimistic about this. I see challenges in the political agenda to reach a bilateral treaty, a trade agreement, and to improve certain things on the juridical system. That is some of these challenges. But overall, I'm very optimistic. I think India will become a more global player as it is now in the near future. Foremost regarding climate change and all questions which are related to it because of the sheer size of the country and its population. And in the near future, there will be no major decision made without India. And that's why I'm very optimistic. I have a very optimistic outlook for promising business between these two countries. And we share similar values. And I think that is also very, very important topic. We are committed to democracy, to a republic. And I think that is something we should not underestimate. So all in all, let's look forward and let's not address the challenges, see more the potentials. Challenges is something politicians have to handle, but we are pragmatic and we want to face on challenges and we are there to serve for you.
So I also agree to the same. Against all odds, there are a lot number of potential and opportunities which both the countries have for each other. We have done a number of transactions wherein the German companies have actually flourished in India and they have been making good business out of it. And similarly, from India also, there can be huge opportunities for the IT companies and the space companies to travel to Germany and start their own ventures there. And they can be huge opportunities. It's just about thinking in line and thinking at the right time where the opportunities are there. So against all odds, we can very, very much win, on the bilateral side of it.
Wonderful. I think at least for people who are, because I speak from the perspective of a student who's trying to learn more and more about it, but everyone, even the investors or anyone who's trying to learn more about it or understand how these investment relations or the trade technological relations are going to impact and what exactly is the future, this is the kind of episode that would definitely benefit a lot of people. So I'm really, really grateful. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me for this amazing conversation. I'm really excited to bring this episode out for everyone to watch and to learn and to tune in. And I had a wonderful time. I hope both of you had a good time too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, definitely. I enjoyed it a lot. And thanks for
Perfect.
making it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Kaustav.
Thank you.
Bye, Markus.